Hi, my name's Laurent. I'm part of the team here at Kyan. Today, I'm going to talk a bit about how we work with startups. So there are two ways that we tend to start working with startups. The first way is when an entrepreneur comes to us with a vision of what they want to create, the product that they want to build, and they're looking to raise the money to help them put a team together to build it. So in that instance, we are working with an entrepreneur to create an investment pack that will help them put the initial brand together, create a vision of the product that they want to create, and create a high fidelity prototype, which allows them to go out and secure the investment that they need to build the startup. If we're working with a startup that hasn't got investment yet, their priority is going to be getting the idea of the vision of the product out of the entrepreneur's head onto paper so that they're in a position to go and meet investors and talk to potential clients. And it's a combination of like validating that their confidence in the idea and also doing that very initial pitch, right? A product is only going to be successful if you're pitching it right to customers, if you're pitching it right to investors. So it helps them really nail down what it is they're going for, the vision of the product, and then by working with our team to kind of bring it to life, albeit as a prototype rather than a finished product, it's taking us through a lot of those steps that validates, is the idea correct, is the market right, is the business plan valid, and can we put a compelling enough story together that means they're able to go and sell it. The second route is sometimes we'll start working with startups who have already been through an investment round and have raised the capital to build the product. And this normally happens with entrepreneurs that are coming out of the industry that they're operating in rather than being tech entrepreneurs that have done this already. So they may have all the understanding of the business model, the market, the industry that they're in, but they've never built a digital product from scratch before or a digital team. So in those examples, we're working with an entrepreneur to help them build out a roadmap for the product, a technology approach, even sometimes a recruitment and hiring strategy that allows them to do a combination of working with us as an agency whilst also building some in-house capability. The two different entry points for startups are quite different from a starting point, but the good thing about working with startups is that either way, you're starting from a complete blank slate in terms of technology and approach, and you're able to bring best practice and tooling that, the team are excited about using, that we think will give us an advantage in building the product, and not held back by some of the kind of legacy infrastructure challenges that you'll have with a bigger enterprise scale business. In both of those instances, whether you're looking to raise money or you've raised money and looking to start building the product, in those early days, you need access to lots of expertise. You need, CTO, you need development lead, you need infrastructure, you need DevOps, you need design and UX, brand. There's lots of pieces you need to pull together to be able to get that first version of your product to market, or even that first version of the product realized to get investment. So bringing together a team of experts like that on day one of a startup is very difficult. You'd have to be very aggressive at hiring, and you'd have to have the ability to pay lots of senior people for their expertise in delivering that. So that's where an agency often bridges the gap, where we can bring all that expertise in, not on a full-time basis, just as much as you need, and they can work together as a team. If you're hiring all those people, it takes time for those people to gel and get used to working together. Whereas if you hire an agency, obviously those people have been working together for a long time, have been through this process of creating a vision for a startup, building the technology stack, understanding the roadmap. They've worked through that process before, so it's just going to be a much leaner, more efficient way of doing it if you're starting from nothing. So yeah, typically the startup journey, you want to be thinking about 4 to 6 months. So if you haven't got investment yet, you want to be thinking about creating that vision piece and creating your investor deck, creating your high fidelity prototype, validating it with users, getting some feedback, that should arm you with enough of a product vision where you're not just going out to get investment based off the back of a PowerPoint deck. You've actually got a product realized, you've got it tested, you've got some feedback, and you've got a tangible prototype that you can put in the hands of an investor and really show them the vision of what you're trying to create. And that will already put you many steps ahead of people that are just going in with a PowerPoint deck trying to raise investment. Once you've secured the investment to build the product, then really the next stage is somewhere between 4 to 6 months, depending on the scale of the product that you want to build. But really, you want a good 3 months worth of engineering, and you probably need a month to get ready to really get the engineers all lined up so that they're going to work efficiently. So we would normally do kind of discovery and definition phase in that first 4 to 6 weeks, and then you're going to want to go into 10 to 12 weeks of sprints with a full product team to get to your MVP and to get the product launch. And obviously it doesn't stop there. You then have to have the roadmap of what you're going to do post-launch, but that initial milestone tends to be a fairly big one for investors, is getting your product to market in a reasonable time frame, and then using the basis of a launch product to kind of test and learn and iterate and develop new features once you've got it in the hands of consumers. So that's some of the ways that we work with our startup clients. Working with startups is generally a lot of fun. We really enjoy it here, which is why we keep a mix of some of those projects and some of the bigger enterprise things that we do here. It's always an opportunity to learn a lot from a startup. So if you think we can help you bring your startup to life, give us a shout. We're happy to chat about it.